All right, welcome back to the program. 8 minutes after 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I keep thinking it's Monday because I got to sleep in yesterday. They gave me the day off. And I appreciated it. It was a nice day to be in. It was kind of like snowy in the morning. I didn't have to rush to go outside and shovel any snow or anything like that. And so it felt good. But back to work, and happy to be back with you today. On Friday, if you were listening to the program, we announced the decision by Amazon to withdraw its proposal from Long Island, and had quite a discussion about it. And a gentleman gave me a call on the phone, and he was trying to convince me that I was wrong about the Amazon proposal. He said it's bad for people, it's bad for the community. The community gave way too much, or was ready to give way too much to Amazon to go there, and that the means didn't quite justify the ends. And we were going back and forth at it. He called back a second time, and it was at that point I said, this guy's got some passion, and not only does he have passion, but he's got an ideology that I've been trying to find. Because we're in a time right now in this country where I think our divisions are becoming a little bit more defined, and I think he's a very, very smart man, and he's got an awful lot to contribute to the conversation. So I wanted to bring him in to chat with us today for a bit, and his name is Jeph Barthold, and he is a Brockton native, lives in Fall River, and works in New Bedford, the Seven Hills Foundation of New Bedford. You're a residential director there, Jeff?
Yep, I'm a residential director, and I've been serving the autistic community for the past, I would say, 7 to 8 years, and I recently got promoted to this position, and I love what I do. I love working with the guys I work with. So
tell me, how would you describe yourself politically? I'm a conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative. How would you describe yourself?
So I am what you would call a progressive, left-leaning, also libertarian in some instances. Whether it comes to NSA spying and stuff like that. I'm against that, but yeah, I'm a progressive. I'm a progressive leftist, is what you would call. And I'm registered independent, but I typically vote Democrat. I rarely see Republican legislation that I agree with.
So through your eyes, Donald Trump is like, Satan on earth. I mean, he's like the,
Donald Trump is just, it's an atrocity. He ran on a populist agenda. He said a lot of things like keeping jobs in the U.S., saving everybody's health insurance. He just ran on ideas that most Americans agree with. They don't want their jobs shipped out. But in his first year in office, he took out 93,000 jobs. He nixed TPP and then stopped NAFTA and came out with a new NAFTA deal. But a lot of the provisions from TPP were in there and doesn't benefit Americans. But a lot of Democrats don't run on those type of core policy issues, and that's what I'm here to talk about with your audience, because I'm not here to continue a divide. I'm here to kind of just let people focus on the substantive issues that we're dealing with right now. And Donald Trump, he's done a lot of, he's not the worst. Bush is still the worst president that we've ever had.
Bush Jr.?
Bush Jr., yeah.
So would you identify yourself maybe as more of a Bernie Sanders type progressive?
Yes, a Bernie Sanders type progressive. Bernie Sanders has been fighting for working class Americans. That's where I'm at. That's where a lot of people are at. They're trying to take this idea of Medicare for all, something, it's like a big issue that I'm running on, that I care about in the 2020 election, which is the idea that we have a single payer healthcare system. The government pays for people to have health insurance. Medical bankruptcy is a very high occurrence in the United States right now. We have 40,000 people die every year because they don't have health insurance. These are the issues that I really care about. And the fact that we keep kowtowing to this idea of, we just got to make health insurance private. Every other modern industrial nation has some form of a single payer healthcare system. When you look at Germany, when you look at the UK, when you look at Canada, we're behind. We pay the most in healthcare costs and get the least out of it. So if I don't have a president who's going to address that issue, who's going to address the fact that a woman in Boston can get her foot stuck between a train and the platform and break her foot and beg people not to call the ambulance for her because she can't afford it, this is something that is a huge issue. And Donald Trump acted like he cared about it, yet under his administration, millions of people lost their health insurance.
Let me let you in on a little secret that you probably don't know. I think my audience knows. I used to work for Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders first ran for Congress, I was his press secretary. So I worked up in Burlington, Vermont.
Wow.
And when I was in Burlington, Vermont, we had an influx of people coming in from Canada, like on a regular basis, because their healthcare system they felt was inferior. Long waiting lines to get the kind of medical care that they could get here in the United States. If you were looking for something that was an elective procedure or something, forget it. You're on line for 2 years.
Yeah.
When you have government sponsored, it becomes a lot more expensive to you because the government is running it. And the government gets bloated and is going to pay for all the bureaucracy, but also more people get involved in it. And in some sense, it gets, I don't know if you want the word abused is a fair word, but more people are participating in it. And it's becomes something that is very difficult. So then it becomes almost rationed at some points.
Yeah. And I've heard this argument about, I know the elective procedures, in these countries and including in the, the European Union, there's a lot of complaints about those systems. But if you look at it in the macro level, you're never gonna think that it's something that we need. Them coming to the United States, that's a natural thing that's gonna occur. But in the end, we still have the worst results in terms of people dying because they don't have health care. We have to put into our people and make them healthier, and the economy is going to grow because of it.
Well, can't we reform the healthcare system without putting it on the government?
No, we can't. The Affordable Care Act is not going to fix our problems. The Affordable Care Act was the right wing solution to our complaints, and they acted like we were going to get a public option, which that's what Medicare for All is.
The Affordable Care Act was a right-wing response?
It was. I mean, it was crafted by Mitt Romney and his administration back in, when he was running Massachusetts. That was the Republicans who hate Obamacare now. They were the ones. If you're thinking about, if you see like the scale, left is, subsidizing healthcare and making it a right for everyone. The right is, if you go further right, you're gonna make it more free. You're gonna make it more free to the markets. You're gonna privatize it. Meeting in the middle is what the Affordable Care Act did. And at some point, Democrats have to realize that Republicans don't want to compromise with us. As soon as we finally agree to it, they're saying, "Oh, the Affordable Care Act, it's horrible. The individual mandate, yeah, I get it. The individual mandate, it is a little forceful to find somebody if they don't get the health insurance." And Trump nixed that, But again, what are we gonna do? We have to solve this problem of people.
But I'm not sure government's the answer, though. I mean, you look at things that are run by the government. Let's look at the post office. What's the deficit in the post office? To talk about Amtrak? Look at what's the deficit in Amtrak? Government gets bigger, it gets more expensive, and it becomes less efficient. I mean, there's got to be a way. I don't think anybody would disagree with you that the healthcare system needs to be reformed.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just not sure we're coming at it. We're obviously coming at it from two different approaches here. I think it should be reformed in a private way. You think it should be government controlled.
Well, with anything, you have for it to work very well, you have to fund it, and you have to make sure that you're caring for it. We have when you talk about the government running things, our military is the strongest in the world.
But we were paying like $1,600 for a toilet seat, remember?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about
Maybe we can see if Amazon's got some cheaper toilet seats.
You know, I just think that when you have Congress, you know, passing a military budget of $700 billion a year, and we still have, you know, a place like Flint, Michigan that still doesn't have clean water. The Obama administration, by the way, abandoned that, just like Trump is right now. They're not addressing that issue. It's like if we just allocated our funds in the right way, we could have great government run programs. But we take from, you know, we never blink an eye when we want to throw another missile at a country. We're at war in 8 different countries right now, and I don't think anybody in this room can tell me what winning looks like in these countries. Afghanistan, trillions of dollars have been spent.
Well, Trump's trying to bring the troops home, right?
Well, not full stop. I mean, he says, you know, I was actually mad at a lot of left-leaning outlets like CNN and MSNBC when they like scoffed at Trump for pulling out troops in Syria and you know, wanting to, you know, make war, just make the troops' presence in these countries obsolete. And they acted like, you know, they're left-leaning people, but if you're a left-leaning person, you don't want war, especially the wars that we're engaged in right now. Wars that didn't go through Congress, you know, because of the Patriot Act or these things, these laws that were made, that if you felt like there was terrorism in these regions, we can just go to war, endless wars. And we criticize Trump for trying to pull out troops, but he's not even pulling out troops at you know, he said he wants to cut it in half, but now it's not really happening. Like, as far as I know, it hasn't decreased yet. We need to start putting more emphasis on our infrastructure, on our healthcare system, on things like universal pre-K, you know, family leave, these things that could really help and benefit Americans. You know, starting a family and knowing that you can take the time off to be with your family and start your family.
Well, we have that in Massachusetts, and Trump's administration has proposed that too. That's sitting before Congress and languishing like just about everything.
A proposal.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and be the Republican against your Democrat, because I'm not a Republican either. Like you, I'm an independent. And I think the Republicans have screwed this country just as badly as the Democrats have. Mm-hmm. That's why many of us went to the polls in 2016 and voted to drain the swamp, if you will. Get rid of both sides.
Because and what both has that sides gotten us?
Well, we've had some progress, but we're only 2 years in, and everything this guy's trying to do is being fought for political reasons. I mean, look at the battle over the wall. Now, whether you believe in the wall or you don't believe in the wall, the very people that are fighting against the wall right now, just 2 years ago, fought for it. I mean, you know, Hillary Clinton voted to allocate money for it. Bill Clinton was all for, we got to throw the illegal immigrants out. Barack Obama, we got to send these kids home.
Yep.
So, I mean, the very people that are fighting it now were for it just a couple of years ago. So that's politicizing an issue, right?
You're not. I mean, it's not entirely honest to say that they were you know, they're now going against it. I mean, border security and a physical barrier, 2 different things.
Well, we had a bill that passed in 2006 that Bush signed. It was a bill that would build a barrier on the southern border. Hillary Clinton voted for it. John Kerry voted for it.
Let's just so your callers know, like a person like me, a person who believes in social democracy, I'm not for open borders. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very bad idea when you have different cultures on the same hemisphere. You know, we do need border security. We do need some level of fencing. We do need some level of you know, high technology security that can watch for a lot of the bad things that happen at the border. But what, you know, he's asking for this big wall that goes all across spans thousands of miles. And he's leaning on the fact that we need to work on our opioid crisis. You know, when you talk about the opioid crisis, there's domestic companies here that have really ramped that up, like Merck. These pharmacy companies that have pretty much peddled these drugs to doctors.
You're right. And the doctors hand them out like candy.
And the doctors hand them out like candy. And now we have an epidemic. Most of our drugs do not come through these. They come through legal ports of entry.
Right.
They come.
Well,
through
but this is what's getting lost in this whole discussion here when we talk about border security. I mean, most of the I don't want to say most of, but a good number of the people who are in this country illegally, maybe most, I don't know, come in legally on visas, and the visas expire, and we don't bother. So when we talk about border security, or at least when I talk about border security, I'm talking about the whole 9 yards. I'm talking about the ports of entry, whether they're coming in on those big container ships or whether they're flying in, or I mean, a great deal of the fentanyl that's coming in from China is coming in legally through airports.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's the whole enchilada. We got to deal with the whole issue of security. Unfortunately, we're stuck on the Mexican border at the moment, and we can't get off of that.
We need to get off of it.
And we need to get off of it.
I mean, you know that it's unconstitutional that he declared a national emergency.
Well, all the presidents have done that. You can't. I mean, it's within his jurisdiction to do so.
Yeah, but when you look at the actual, if it's a crisis, in 10 years, illegal immigrant crossings have decreased rapidly. If you looked at the 10-year span. So how is that really a crisis when you compare to 9/11? Or when you compare to the Iran crisis?
Well, you just made the point. Well, they're different situations. But, I mean, you made the point.
I don't feel threatened.
You made a point that we both agreed on, that there's a lot of bad stuff happening at the border that needs to be addressed, okay? Now, whether it be a wall that goes from, the Gulf of Mexico all the way out to San Diego, I don't know if that's the solution, but we do have bad things that we need to do a better job of regulating.
I love your reasoning. I love that you're here to talk to me and work out these details, but you have to realize that that's not what the president is perpetuating. He doesn't talk about overstayed visas as hard as he talks about this border that is not going to, and like I said, I'm not for open borders, but it's not our biggest
you're right.
problem.
I can't disagree with you. I think that needs to be a bigger part of the discussion. It has to be a bigger part of the discussion, and it was at one point, and then suddenly all of that got left behind. And it's all focused on the border. What we're doing here right now is we're finding some commonalities, and that's what I'm searching for with you here, finding some commonalities, because that's how we move on.
That's right.
And we've been sitting for 30 years. 30 years with nothing getting done in Congress.
Nothing.
Because, well, you're a Republican and you're a Democrat, and you suck because you like Trump. Well, you suck because you voted for Obama, and that's getting us nowhere. So what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to find commonalities and build from that. Because we're never all going to agree on the same things or the same approaches. But I think ultimately we can agree that there's some bad stuff going on at the border. How we deal with that and going forward, that's where we need to sit down at the table and we need to figure out the way forward there. But I think that definitely includes legal ports of entry, people overstaying visas, all of those different things.
And Barry, we have to focus on the policies. These are us saying, let's come to the table. Those are just platitudes. That's just what people say. The actions speak louder than words. And we can't act like, oh yeah, we agree. But that's why I want to talk to your audience and just say, look, this is what this policy does. If this happens to you, it's going to affect your livelihood very bad. You have to look at these presidential candidates' voting records. You have to look at the Mitt Romneys and the Kamala Harris and the Joe Bidens, all of these people who just will sell you all these nice words. Oh, we got to come together. We got to fight for justice. These words that mean nothing. And we need to focus on progressive candidates, because think about FDR. FDR was voted into office 3 times. He died in office. And the stuff that he created, Social Security, Glass-Steagall, a lot of other policies.
Very different times, though. I mean,
very different times.
I do agree with you. We do agree on the fact that there's a lot of noise out there, and a lot of it's show. Whether it be Mitt Romney. I'm with you with Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
We don't need Mitt Romney.
We don't need Mitt Romney.
Don't even need Mitt Romney. Bill Weld is not the answer to
Bill Weld is not the answer.
No answer.
Hillary
Kamala Harris,
Clinton
Spartacus.
is definitely not the answer.
No.
Yeah.
But see, you're looking at it from the progressive point of view, and I'm seeing it from the conservative point of view. And again, we got to figure out a way to somehow or another find the things that we can agree with, because we won't agree on all of it. and figure out a way forward. And I'm going to let my callers ask you about that.
Okay,
All right. Let me do this, though. I'm going to take a real quick break. We're going to come right back. And Jeph Barthold is with us. And Jeph is, I think, a very intelligent guy who called the show on Friday. Not that you guys aren't all intelligent. You're all intelligent. But Jeph just struck something with me as somebody who represents the progressive point of view better than anybody I think I've spoken to in a long time.
Great.
And I felt that he can articulate that, and we can have a conversation about that. And I want to invite you guys to call, whether you are pro-progressive or pro-conservative or whatever your politics might be. How do we find a solution moving forward? Let's hash it out.
Hash it out
Without the typical, well, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, well, Trump sucks, and, Hillary sucks too, and all that kind of stuff, because that gets us nowhere. That gets us to where we are right now, right?
That's right.
All right, let me do a real quick break. We'll be back with your calls for Jeph. 508-996-0500. Stay with us.
All right.
All right, welcome back to the program. It is 31 minutes after 1 o'clock, right? Yeah, my clock says 12, but it's actually 1. Yeah, so okay. The day's going by. It goes by so quickly. It really does. It always does. Jeph Barthold is with me, and we're chatting politics. He's progressive. I'm a conservative, and you guys, I get some conservatives. I get some liberals. We get them all. So we want to put you on the phone with Jeph right now. We're going to start right over here. And we'll start with line 1. And you're first. Thanks for hanging on WBSM.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for coming in. I appreciate listening to you. Hey. And I think, first of all, the reason that President Trump is so popular, maybe with just conservatives or people like myself, is that he's the first real deal we've seen come down the road. He's the first real deal. He's the first non-politician, and that's what I'm looking for. And I saw a direct impact to the economy last year since this guy came in office, consumer confidence, the whole 9 yards. Now, when you talk about the border, listen, he doesn't want to get into the weeds where I am sure, common sense will tell you, we can't put a wall down the whole length of the border. We know we need some innovation there. We know we need some technology, but we know we also need a strong border. And along with that is where President Trump is just trying to state one fact and run with it, because the more things he puts out there, the more they couldn't even come to the agreement that with the word wall. So that's what he's up against, and I think that's why. And we're not going to. Some of us are 60, 50 years old. We don't have time to keep chasing down this progressive or that progressive. Right now, this is a real deal. I don't like Romney. I didn't like any of the other Republicans, but to me, I thought they might have been a better take than the Democrats. I most definitely didn't want Bernie Sanders, because People need to work and be thankful for what they can get.
Well, let me let Jeph respond to what you're saying. Go ahead, Jeph.
Okay, so what was your name?
Glad to.
Okay. You said that the Bush tax, the Trump tax cuts, you like those
I didn't
tax
mention
cuts?
the tax cuts. I was talking mostly about the border.
Okay, the border.
Because you were saying, oh, we needed innovation and we need, yeah. I'm just saying that the guy is just talking about the physical border right now, but he knows we need other stuff. Common sense tells you you're not going to build a wall down the whole stretch of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have to really articulate each individual thing he wants to put in.
Let me hold you right there, because I want to grab another one right after this. But what about his point, though? His point that strikes me is that this is the first non-politician that we've seen come down the pike, and that he seemed to represent Middle America in the sense that people were hearing somebody that spoke like them, that felt like them, and that were articulating their points of view on all of these issues that we raised here.
I think it's a good point. I think that Donald Trump, quite frankly, I like how he changed the landscape. A lot of other things I do not like about him, but he made it okay to just be unfiltered and just say it like it is. You knew the common politician talking point where they kind of talk with their thumb out and say, we're gonna make change and we're gonna do that. It was the soft thing, but I think that that's about it. If you only focus on a politician's identity and what he does and what he says, when you go down to the meat of it, the meat of the policy, he is exactly like Barack Obama. He perpetuates wars. He's pretty much Obama wasn't for tax cuts, but Obama bailed out Wall Street.
Well, look at North Korea. Everybody said that Donald Trump's going to get elected and he's going to get us in a damn nuclear war with the North Koreans, and look what's gone on there.
Donald Trump took credit for something that the South Korean leader was already in negotiations with. He worked really hard to do that. But
Donald Trump came out and he was little rocket man this, and we're going to, we got a bigger bomb than your bomb, and we're going to. Yeah. So, don't you think that? I think Kim Jong-un had this sense that, Barack Obama was a pushover. And Trump comes in and he's out there banging the bigger saber and he's rattling it and everything else. And this guy's saying, wait a minute, we might have to be careful with him. That's really, you can have your own opinion of how that panned out. I definitely believe that it was stronger that the South Korean leader came to the table and was trying to work out a peace deal. But he wasn't able to do it until the big mouth in the room.
Of course, but another thing about that is we don't know if they've even slowed down their nuclear testing operations.
We don't. But what we do know is they haven't test fired a missile.
No, they haven't test fired a missile. And look, I give Donald Trump credit for coming and talking to the North Korean leader, but to say that it was his bravado that kind of settled everything, I think that's a little over the top. You need to look at more policies.
All right, you're up next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Jeph. Good afternoon, Barry.
Hey, how are you, Steve?
Jeph, you and I couldn't be more than we are 180 degrees out. You're a progressive. I'm a conservative Republican. Have always been.
Okay.
You are definitely laid back. Barry will tell you I run it at 110 miles an hour all the time.
All right.
But I am totally going to enjoy this conversation. Because I feel I can talk to you. There's two things that you just made a statement with Barry earlier. The first one was that statistics show that 80 to 90% of the drugs come through the border checkpoints or come through transit of container ports, that's the statistics that everyone's using, correct?
Yep.
Okay. How do you know what's coming through where there are no checkpoints? Because I would think the cartels, right? These guys are brilliant.
Yeah.
So how do we know what's not coming through those places where there are no checkpoints?
There's really no way for us to know. What we have to rely on is the data that we have. And
but the data's flawed, is it not?
The data's flawed. I mean,
because we have no way. We can't check a negative. There's no way to check a negative.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, I understand that we do need stronger border security at the border, but to say that people are not, what Donald Trump is running on is building a physical barrier. To say that people are not going to build tunnels under it or climb over it, and there's been so many examples of those walls being breached. You know what I mean?
Okay, one thing to add on that, because there's one other quick question I got to ask you for immigration. So are you telling me then that when I add an extra lock on my door in my house, that it really isn't a deterrent?
It is a deterrent, but what you have to realize is that undocumented immigrants murdering people is significantly low than people who are already citizens murdering other people.
Jeph, do you realize that brings a whole nother other thing? I'm just going to say this quickly to you.
Okay.
You're speaking as someone whose mother was almost killed by an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
She was run over by a drunk illegal immigrant.
That's terrible.
Who was twice deported, and the woman never walked again. And my family spent the next 20 years I spent the next 22 years, her last 20 years of her life, taking care of her in a nursing home. My family not going on vacations because we felt so guilty about her being in a nursing home that we had to take her out on weekends. So that's a sore subject. But I wanted to get to,
I definitely feel for you.
Nobody can understand that until it happens to them. The other question was, how do we know? How do we know? You said that illegal immigration is down over the last 10 years. That's a false statement too, because and this is what the media loves to run with. Mm-hmm. Yes, DHS puts those numbers out, but what we're not doing is we're not telling what is the number of people who are actually here. Yes, catching people at the border has significantly dropped. More are still sneaking in though, because the number they're estimating now, according to these think tanks that are bipartisan, okay, mm-hmm. There are 22 million people here again. They're flooding through because they know that we're getting ready. We're getting into a position to choke the border off. And they need to get here before we do.
I also think that we should consider that there's incentives to come and cross here legally. We oftentimes look down at the people who are immigrants coming, and we say this is the problem. But there's massive corporations here who take advantage of illegal immigrants, and we need to have. I would love to hear Trump say, hey, I'm going to put some stricter laws on companies who are hiring.
I think those are already the laws. They're just not enforced. And
They're
I think
not enforced.
That's half the problem.
I mean,
hey, Steve, appreciate your call. Thank you, my friend. Let me grab the next one. You're next with Jeph on WBSM. Go ahead.
Jeph, we are out to defeat and destroy you. We don't want to find a way to go forward together with progressives.
I see.
We follow in the footsteps of Alex Jones and others who understand. Yes. Do you know Alex?
I love Alex, and let me just say, Alex. He, I say that sarcastically, but he. I don't agree that they deplatformed Alex Jones. I think he's definitely wonky and a conspiracy. But I'm like a free speech absolutist, and I think that it's really ridiculous that he got deplatformed. But he's crazy. I mean, he's crazy. Full stop. And I don't know if I can even come to the aisle with the people like.
Well, I think this is another area that we have some common ground on, because I think Alex Jones is from another planet too. 508-9960-500. You're on the air with Jeph. Go ahead.
Good morning, or actually good afternoon. I'm sorry, I missed a whole day here.
Good afternoon.
You sound like a very reasonable young man, Jeph. I'm very happy to hear that from someone who is a conservative who is not out to destroy you. I would like to say I think that there's a huge difference here, and I think it comes down to talking points, because I remember at one time Obama was reporting that he turned away or deported more illegal aliens or undocumented workers, whatever label you want to give them. Mm-hmm. But he turned away more immigrants than any other president, and I remember him bragging about that And because federal agency is my thing, I pay less attention to what the president is doing and what Congress is doing, because I think that in a lot of cases the executive office uses federal agency as a backdoor approach to changing regulations and making things happen without actually making it a law.
Okay.
And Chevron deference, if you know anything about the Supreme Court or how agencies work, they use Chevron deference to say that something is unclear so they can make it up as they go along. So there's a law on the books possibly for 10 or 20 years, and they can say, well, this administration doesn't understand this section of the law, so we're going to use Chevron deference, and we're going to go ahead and change that. So in some cases, Obama did the same thing. The laws don't change. It's the regulations and how the federal agencies are used
to suit your political purpose. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the biggest problem, because I think we're all on the same page. I don't think anybody wants open borders. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I don't want to.
Well, there you go. So the problem is, how do we manage that? And I think it becomes more of a political party dialogue than actual citizens. And I think we all end up getting led by our political parties to a certain thought process.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, if we focused on the issue is of overstayed visas, and just the issues of, if we're being lax on companies for hiring illegal immigrants, like, why can't we put in more effort to do that? Because it serves as a big percentage of the reason why people have the incentive to come to this country. This is the common thing that I'm saying. Like, we need to punish. We need to be more cruel. We give out too many corporate welfare to these big companies, and we're spending so much time on this border wall. We're spending so much time on saying, oh, these kids who are being detained and separated from their parents, like, we shouldn't be so sympathetic to them, like they're a danger to us, when a large majority of them are not a danger. And we should just reform our
I'm not so
immigration
certain
laws.
that we're looking at them as a danger to us. I think what happens is when at the border, and you maybe have a coyote or somebody that's delivering 60 kids or 20 kids or whatever that aren't accompanied by a parent or a legal guardian. What do you do with them at that point? You can't just send them back over the border. You can't allow them to be sold into the sex trade here. And so at what point, I mean, you've got to detain them, right? Somehow, until you figure out what to do with them medically, because a lot of these kids are coming across with diseases. Some of them have been raped out in the deserts coming up here. So you got to figure out what to do with them. I don't think it's an ideal situation. I don't think Obama wanted to do it when he did it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Trump wants to do it either. But really, what are the alternatives other than just giving them a ticket, putting them on a Greyhound bus and saying, we'll head up to East Overshoe somewhere?
You have to wonder how serious Trump is, because when Chuck Schumer first reached across and said, all right, here's the deal, we'll give you $25 billion or $20 billion for the wall and just give a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients, he turned down that deal. Trump turned down multiple deals that Democrats wanted to make. It's a tit for tat thing. And now, finally, the Democrats don't want to budge, because, like, this guy's always negotiating Mr. Art.
But don't get bogged down into the partisanship of this, because I think you're above that, and that's what we're trying to do. Because I don't think you really support the Democrat position on this either, because it's been so contrived and so twisted, and it changes. I mean, one day Nancy Pelosi saying not $1 for the wall, the next day they're offering $1.3 billion. So I don't think anybody is sincere on this.
Well, we need. That's why I'm here to talk about the progressive agenda. We have candidates out here running who have great solutions to these problems. And again, the border is very complicated. We definitely need to look back into the laws and fix them. But what we're doing right now, if you are a Trump supporter, you cannot tell me that this is effective. It's not effective.
Well, it's not effective, and this is why this is the number one issue, I think, with Americans right now.
Yeah.
And it's not effective. It wasn't effective when Reagan was, granted amnesty. It wasn't effective when Bush was in. It wasn't effective when Obama was in, or Clinton. I mean, it's been ineffective, and nobody's really wanted to do anything about it.
Yeah, well,
they talk a good game, but nobody's really done anything.
And the thing is, like, we need to take automation serious. Automation is an existential threat to all of us. Technology is ramping up. That's our biggest threat. We are not addressing that. I'll give you some statistics, right? 3.5 million truckers are out there right now, and they are earning $75,000 to $80,000 a year, right? These guys are at risk of losing their jobs because of automation. In the next 20 years, companies are going to start hiring these tech companies to build them trucks, and these trucks are they never stop. They they're pretty much they have there's labor savings in it. There's fuel efficiency because the trucks can daisy chain together for less wind resistance. There's fewer accidents.
Somebody's going to have to build those trucks, and somebody's going to have to service those trucks, right?
But it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's $168 billion in savings for companies to hire automated trucks versus paying somebody who has a federal a limit of driving of 15 hours, I think, who has to
But we can't throw technology in the garbage. Technology is here, and it's frustrating as hell at times. It is. Really, but we have to figure out a way to live with it, right?
We have to, but it's a real thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And men deal with joblessness very poorly. Now, what happens to these 3.5 million truck drivers after these automated trucks come in? 13% of truckers are unionized, but only a majority of them, 87%, are small independent firms. These guys are ex-military guys who have leased these trucks, and they're at risk of losing their jobs because a company is not gonna overpay when they have an opportunity to get a cheaper service. Obviously,
let's give them weapons and put them in our schools. How's that?
Yeah, that's not. Most parents don't want that.
I knew that was going to get a rise out of you. 508-996-0500. You're on with Jeph. Go ahead. Hey. Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. No, of course not. Of course. I totally agree with you. But what I also would say is that there's a lot. If it's a crisis, like obviously there's like anecdotal examples that people can give me, like the gentleman who called before, who said his mother was hit by an illegal alien or an illegal immigrant. Those are terrible, and I really hate that that's happening. But what I'm really trying to focus on is that there's greater threats to our society than immigration. If you looked at the bigger picture, and I know it's hard, and I don't expect somebody who's been through that to look at that picture, there's a lot of benefit that America has when immigrants come to this country.
I agree. I agree 100%.
And there's sales tax.
Well, but I mean, nobody's talking about banning immigrants. We're talking about banning illegal immigrants.
Of course,
right.
But the even with illegal immigrants, they pay sales tax, they pay property tax, they pay a ton of taxes that we don't even account for. We say,
but they need to come in. They need to come in the front door.
I definitely want them to come in the front door, but if we stay bogged down in they're not doing this, we need to start addressing how we're not going to fix it by building a wall. That's not going to be the answer. You won't see the better results.
We have to start by changing what we're doing.
Trust
me.
And
if we just ignore the border factor, then we're saying, well, what are we going to do? Try to catch them when they get to Maine?
But nobody's. I don't think there's a single progressive candidate that is for walking away from the border security problem. That's what we all care about. That I care about that. But what I'm saying to you is, we have to face the reality, and I want to keep getting down on this issue. This is not working the way that Trump is doing it. It hasn't worked the way that Obama did it. We have to do, and this is why progressive candidates exist, because they give fresh ideas. They give new ideas that they focus on the empirical data.
All right, let's grab another one for Jeph, and you are next at WBSM. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Just to clarify something, it's that it's still going on, still being deported, and if you're a legal resident and if you committed a felony, you're going to be deported.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes I think it's just illegal. No, it's if you're illegal and if you committed a felony. As a matter of fact, the last count when Obama was in office, I think the last 3 years, he deported over almost 3 million people that committed crimes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the figures are right now, but they're still being deported on a daily basis. So that's one thing. The other thing is, even if you put a wall, people are going to find an alternative to come to the country.
Exactly.
As long as you have a need to better your life, and if you have a family and you want a better life, you're going to find a way. Every day people are dying that come from Africa, and they risk their lives to come across the Atlantic Ocean to reach Europe. Even though some countries in Europe are rejecting them, they're still coming through the Atlantic. And I think it's even more risky than it is to put up a wall.
Yeah.
So I think we should reconsider different ideas, different ways.
Different ideas, that's
to keep
right.
them away.
That's right.
A wall is going to solve some problems. They're going to solve some, but it's not going to be guaranteed at 100%.
And that's what I want to tell your audience. You know, we can we at least realize that these methods are not good methods. And I'm not saying
it's not a be all and end all. There's no question about that.
I'm not saying that I have the answer to it. I definitely, but I don't want to do the same song and dance with the same.
But I think most people that support a wall, myself included, don't think that it's the going to be the silver bullet to this thing. There are many other things we talked about before: visas and drugs coming in through container ships that are not being, and I'm sure aliens and criminals and MS-13 and everybody else are coming through those same container ports. And those are all issues that we got to address.
Yeah.
Let me grab another one for Jeph. You're up next to WBSM. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Geez, great conversation, guys. What I was thinking of more of acting locally, we all sit around and talk about the national immigration problem and illegal this and illegal that. Stop them from getting jobs and act locally, as in our fish houses. We all sit around, including me, talking about it, but we do nothing about it.
That's right.
ICE doesn't do anything. The mayor doesn't do anything.
That's right.
The sheriff doesn't do anything. And it continues and continues. Act locally, dry up the jobs, and a large part of this would be take care of itself.
And I don't only want I totally agree with you. We need to stop handing out opportunities like that. But we definitely do need to fix the long, arduous process of becoming a legal citizen here. I don't just want to turn these immigrants away and say, all right, now we're stricter on our getting our jobs. I want them to have an easier time if they're really acting in good faith and they want to be acclimated in our culture and they want to become
acclimation
American.
is a big point.
It's got to be. It has to be that way. Yeah. And there's ways that we can assess that. Mm-hmm. But it can't be don't give them jobs at all, and it can't be we shouldn't do anything at all. It's complicated. But.
Let me grab another one for Jeph. Go ahead. You're on the air on WBSM.
How dare you cut me off and not let me retort?
All right, Ferris, you're next at WBSM. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I understand the border wall is not the entire solution to the illegal immigration problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make an analogy. You got a guy walking naked down the street.
Yep.
Somebody comes up to him and he says, "I don't like being naked. I don't like being naked." somebody comes walking up to him and says, "It's a T-shirt." Well, that's part of the problem, but I still want to have my whole problem solved. I don't want it. I'm not going to be naked. He's going to turn down that shirt. It's a step in the right. It's a partial solution to the problem. I don't understand what people have a problem with solving part of the problem.
Solving part of the problem is definitely good, sir, and I definitely think. But you're what Trump is doing, the percentage of that problem, it's so small. We're putting tons, and he wants tons of money to solve a very small fraction of that problem. So even though your overall theory is right, it's if you looked at it from a pragmatic point of view, it's gonna be wasteful, and we already have a problem being wasteful in this country with our money. But yeah, that's what I have to say for that.
We've covered a lot of territory in an hour. There's a lot more to talk about. So we're going to get you back in again real soon.
Yeah, I'll definitely love to come back. I can stay longer, but I appreciate you bringing me on. It's a really good thing.
Well, I think we've had and a lot of the callers have recognized the fact that we've had what they consider to be an enjoyable conversation, and nobody's yelling at each other when we're sitting here talking.
That's right.
Respectful adults should do.
I want people to know, Medicare for all, health insurance is really important. And if you're out there and you're listening to this, if you know somebody who has a problem paying for their health insurance, or co-pays are beating them down, Medicare for all, that's the platform. Bernie Sanders announced that he's running today. I know you guys feel like maybe he's a communist or everything. If you look, what I'm here on this radio station to tell you is that I am for working class Americans. So that's what I want to do.
Got to wrap it up.
All right.
Jeph Barthold, appreciate it very much. Any chance of running for political office in your future?
I'm going to focus on my residential directing job.
All right, we'll save that for the next time. Jeph, thanks a lot. We're going to get Jeph back again, I promise you.
All right.
News is next. We're back on the other side. Stay with us.
Thanks.